Okay, and welcome back. Let's continue our discussion on scaling from the last video. In fact, in the last video, I asked you a question. I basically asked you, what are these numbers Sx, if Sx is a real number and Sy is a real number? Let's say this Sx is a number that denotes the scaling factor in x direction, and Sy is the number that denotes the scaling factor in y direction. And what we really want, we want to multiply this number with this 2, and we want to get the corresponding number 4, and we want this number Sy to be multiplied with this 1, and we want to get the corresponding number this 2. So if we multiply this with 1, we want to get this as 2. Not only that, you have to figure out these numbers Sx and Sy such that all the other points, for example this point, it maps to its corresponding point. So for example, this maps to that. Let me give different colors to these points. Let's say this point should be mapped to this particular point, and this point should be mapped to this point, and then we have this particular point should be mapped to this particular point, and all the other corresponding points. So let's just focus on these 4 or 5 points. Let me focus on this particular point as well. So this point should map to this point. So what do you think? What are these numbers? What are these numbers such that what is this number Sx? What is this number Sy that map these two? You can figure out very easily that Sx basically is 2 in this particular case, and Sy is also 2 in this particular case, because 2 into 2 is 4, and then 2 into 1 is 2, and that is consistent with other points as well. For example, this particular point originally was 0, 2, and its corresponding point original is 0, sorry, this is 0, 1, and its corresponding point is 0, 2, and if you multiply 0 with 2, you will get the 0, and if you multiply 1 with 2, you get this 2 out. And similarly, if you multiply 2 with minus 2, you get minus 4, and if you multiply 2 with minus 1, you get this minus 2. That means all the points here, all these points here, every point here, let me denote all these points. There are infinitely many points here because that's actually dense grid. I mean, this is not a, these are all continuous, so there are infinitely many points. Every point here, basically, let me denote the point here, a single point here, as x, y, that point, and let me denote its corresponding point here as x dash, y dash. Then the relationship between x, y and x dash, y dash can be written in the following two equations. X dash is equal to Sx times x, and y dash is equal to Sy times y. And in this particular example, both Sx and Sy are 2 and 2. Here is a quiz question for you. Let's say you want to go from this particular image to the following image, to the following thing, in which the rectangle just got this kind of shape, and this particular coordinate which is corresponding to this particular point, is actually 1/2, comma 2. So basically its width got shrink, and its height got sort of increased, and this particular point, the point which is -2 and -1, this particular point got -1/2, and that becomes -2, and all other corresponding points they actually reach accordingly. So the relationship is the same. You have x to multiply with sx to get x bar and y bar, but now the question is, what are the values of sx and what are the values of sy in this particular case? So that's a quiz question for you. Figure out these values, and we will see you in the next video.